Final day of the year. 6 people are recovering from a chaotic gun battle that erupted on the streets of Germantown just last night. That includes a woman who is critically injured in that set of 6 people. Newly released surveillance video shows the lawlessness, the shootout, where more than 80 shots were fired. Action News reporter Katie Castro working this story for us tonight, live at police headquarters with the details. Unfortunately, Katie, gun violence has been a story that we have dealt with all year.
It has, Shari, and as you mentioned, gun violence has gripped this city this year. That latest shooting in Germantown, police say around 87 shots were fired. Both community members and leaders say they do not want this trend to continue into the new year.
The gun violence needs to stop, though. It really does, because it's about to be a new year.
Surveillance video captures a hail of bullets flying through a Germantown neighborhood just before 11:30 last night. Police say around 87 shots were fired, sending 6 people to the hospital, including a 21-year-old woman shot several times in the chest and torso, leaving her in critical condition. 5 men ranging from 19 to 29 years old in stable condition. The gunfire was exchanged at the corner of Germantown Avenue and Column Street. Police say a group of people were standing at the corner when this white van pulled up and 6 people got out, shooting at the group on the corner. Several members of the group returned fire. The initial shooters got back in the van, which was last seen traveling westbound on Germantown Avenue, with a rack on the roof and distinctive graffiti on the passenger side. Today, members from Germantown Mosque stood in solidarity, fed up with the gun violence in their neighborhood.
No doubt, it's alarming, and it appears to be more like a war zone.
It's been a violent year with a record number of homicides. City Council President Darrell Clark tells Action News everyone has a role to play in ending
here at the corner of Germantown and Column. Last night it was a shooting and they said it was approximately 65 or more bullets that were shot at a group of individuals here on this corner. We just want to let the community know that we're not standing for that. We're here for the community. We're here for not just the Muslims, but our neighbors in general. We're here for the Muslims and our neighbors. We're not standing for this nonsense. You know, you have Muslim daycares over here. You have the bike shop across the street that's been here for years. These people want peace and they want security in their neighborhoods. They want peace and they want security in their neighborhoods. We're not standing for this nonsense. It's sad, it's a shame that we have to deal with this. Our children, their lives is at jeopardy. We have a bullet that went through a daycare across the street. We're here to establish security in our neighborhood, not just for the Muslims, but all of our neighbors. Germantown Avenue and all the city of Philadelphia. We have to stand for something.
إحسان تفضل.
As Muslim Equine, it's important that we keep in mind Prophet ﷺ instructed us how we should be towards our neighbors. And none of us truly believe until we love for ourselves, we love for our neighbors. Neighbors, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslims, have a right. And on a serious note, Equine, every single one of us has a responsibility. The person giving the khutbah, the person that's in the masjid, the person that's just the person that comes to pray. We seriously have a responsibility that we show our concern and that we show that we are trying our best to change the affair. Alhamdulillah, one person can't do it all. The person giving the khutbah can't be giving the same khutbah every week and expect that those who are listening to not do anything. Every single one of us have to do something. The person giving the khutbah, the brothers who are listening, the sisters who are listening. Give a good word, show support.
Alhamdulillah, we're here, inshallah, to support the neighborhood. Inshallah, the Muslims are here in script to try to show that we're tired of the problems happening in our neighborhood. And inshallah ta'ala, we're coming together, hopefully, that we can find a better solution to deal with this violence and this despicable acts that is going on in our neighborhood. Hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, with the strength and the concern of the Muslim community, we can make a dramatic change in this environment and make it safe and secure for the people that live in this environment as well as the Muslims as well. And it's known that some of the Muslim daycare has been struck with bullets, inshallah ta'ala. And we do not want any Muslims or any non-Muslim lives to be taken unjustly. And hopefully that we can come together and find a very positive solution to deal with this matter.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother Abul Baraa.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What you got for us, bro?
You know, that particular video and the incident in Germantown and the brothers, what they have said, it did touch me. And I'm one of the main criticizers of the Germantown Masjid related to their actions and reactions pertaining to systemic racism in the Black community. For a long time, part of the Salafi dawah here in North America is that we are not acknowledging the systemic issues in the Black community where the origins come from. And unfortunately, due to financial reasons, redlining and the US government approaches to deal with the Black community and leave them away from finances and academics is the reason why the criminology or the criminal action within the Black community has become normal. And that is something that is happening in Philadelphia, like any other Black city across the US. So with them neglecting, and I call this the benign neglect from the Salafi community, where within the Black communities, people like the Germantown Masjid, those Salafi groups that are satellite masjids for SP in the UK, that they are not addressing the Black issues, but they taking advantage of the Black community not having leadership. Now, the Salafi community doesn't have a real leadership. The reason why the criminal actions are happening within the Black community, because there is no leadership. And once you have that vacancy of no leadership, that's when the criminal behavior becomes the new norm. And this is well documented related to criminal actions and behavior and Black people accepting this criminal behavior. This is some of the research and studies about these issues. Now, SP, they have took the advantage of this situation where, due to us having the lack of the academics, the lack of the leadership, the lack of responsibility and accountability in the Black community, they took that, they used that as an opportunity to spread their cult understanding or their Salafi Hisbi understanding, and our peoples ate it and ran with it. And now what is coming to a head, they're eating the fruits of their bad seeds. Many of them don't want to listen to that. But I'm going to acknowledge that I liked the response I heard from the brothers. And I want to also note, I didn't see Hassan Somali speaking like that. Even though he was there, I didn't hear him speaking like that. You know, I'm gonna give the brothers in Philly some of the benefits of the doubt. I spent some time in Philadelphia. I spent there a few months living in Philadelphia. I used to go to Germantown Masjid many years ago. I visit there. I like the brotherhood there. I have studied Islam a few places overseas. I lived in Egypt, and wherever I went to seek I always found brothers from Philadelphia, and I always had a good vibe from these brothers. I always felt welcome with these brothers. So what was actually being said in that video, what them brothers said in the street right there, that is something that is sincere, that we could find a lot of brothers and sisters in Philadelphia, they feel this way, and I'm happy to see that type of reaction. So I'm going to, I'm going to recognize this is some good I see. But on the other hand, when it comes to Hassan Somali, when it comes to SP in general, that their doctrine, their beliefs, their dogma is not benefiting the Muslims. It's not benefiting the African-American Muslim. It's not benefiting the Salafi community. When you said that for all these years they've been teaching Usulu Thalatha, this is the truth is, this is the reality of not having the academics, right? So the social issues that's going on in Philadelphia, well, Usulu Thalatha, which is written by Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab Rahimullah, which I study majority of his books and writing, that they are pertaining to dealing with Aqidah issues. But the brothers in Philadelphia, they have some social issues that are in their community, and is the results of systemic racism, redlining, and putting black peoples in a certain neighborhoods and certain financial conditions in these neighborhoods, which create this criminal behavior. Now, Usul Thalatha is not the only curriculum taught in Saudi Arabia. And this is something that the brothers in the Salafi community in the US, they don't have, a lot of them, majority of them, they don't have that type of reality. A lot of them didn't live in the Muslim world. A lot of them don't understand, even in America, the educational institution, they definitely don't understand in the Muslim world the education institution for Islam or academic knowledge. So Usul Thalatha is not the only books being taught. Sheikh Muhammad Wahab books are not the only books being taught. Now, if I go to Saudi Arabia, I'm not going to see criminal actions in the street, right? I'm not going to see this type of behaviors. If I go to Egypt, which the government in Egypt is not Salafi, they are Ashari in creed, and they don't implement the Sharia in every incident. But when I go to Egypt, I don't see this type of behavior. I don't see the Muslims having these behaviors. And the reason why, because the scholars in Islam eradicated, the Muslim scholars and the Islamic governments eradicated these type of behaviors. The thing in Philadelphia, when it comes to the Islamic knowledge and things that they need, besides Aqidah issues or the books on Aqidah and Tawheed, they need to develop curriculum that's going to solve some of the social problems in their community. And they just left it to just a few books based on Aqidah. That's not going to solve the issue. For example, somebody who is who grew up in a household where he didn't have no father, and the government flooded in his community drugs. No, Usul Thalatha is going to lead me to understanding a Tawheed. Is going to lead me to having a better understanding of Allah. Matter of fact, if they really understood the books of Muhammad Wahab Rahimahullah, then they will understand what I'm saying. And I always bring this argument. If you look at Sheikh Muhammad Wahab and Muhammad ibn Saud, if you look at these two, Muhammad ibn Saud, what did he did for the people of Jazira Arabiya? What did he did for the people of Najd? Did he not the stance that he took and the reviving of Muhammad ibn Saud was not that to benefit the social issues of the people of Jazira Arabiya? That's
what he did, because he essentially backed the Imam financially in order for him to spread his dawah. And what these guys are not understanding is that these books are primer books to get a basic understanding in Aqidah, because that's what Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah, that was his intention for writing that small, rinky-dink, small, tiny book, because shirk was widespread in his society at large. You understand? Whereas in the black community, you were mentioning benign neglect. For those of you who don't understand what benign neglect is, it's a government system in which they feign inclusion of the black community. So, for example, let's say, okay, we want you to vote for us in this, or vote for us for that and that. And then when these individuals get in power, they neglect the black community by not giving them any funding in terms of taxes, in terms of representation, in terms of what you call materials for schools and these type of things, right? That's called benign neglect. You let the whole community deteriorate. You understand? So you don't spend any money on infrastructure, on education, from in terms of the what's going into the coffers of the taxation coffers, right? You just take from the community, but you give absolutely nothing, and the community withers and eventually goes into a state of decay. That's called benign neglect. These guys from the East, not only did they nurture and cultivate benign neglect, but they encouraged it. You understand? Right. So now you can't get an education. Why can't you get an education? Because of free mixing. And if you free mix, you're going to be doing the haram. You understand? You can't take a loan for getting a business or whatnot. Why? Because riba is haram. You can't go and work with the kuffar. Why? Because working for the kuffar is haram. Everything is haram. But what's halal, Sheikh? Staying in the masjid and learning usul salafin with me. And by the way, give me your welfare checks so we can build this masjid up. You see what I'm saying? That's what the brother Abu Baraa is talking about. You see what I'm saying? They intentionally have this system where they totally neglect all the social issues that are specific in the black community. Because once you become Muslim, all of a sudden you stop being black, right? You're not black anymore. You're Muslim now. You understand? So all the issues relating to black people, you're totally immune to it. Because you put on a thobe and you wore a beard and you went to the masjid and you put on a kofia and stuff like that.
You know something about their dawah. If you have noted, if you know, you definitely know. But I want to talk to the audience. They focus a portion of their efforts in their cults, in their his group, where they are preaching to their followers not to follow any of the Salafi du'at who are not with their group. So, for example, they would spend a lot of efforts talking about Sheikh Tahir White. They would spend a lot of time and effort to speak about Sheikh Muhammad Munir, and that's the perfect title for him, Sheikh. He has his master's in the science of hadith. They would spend hours and days, and on the minbar will talk about this, but they won't spend any time talking about the issues that put their community in the predicament where they are in at today. So they are.
One second. I see Hanif Davis is in there. I hope that the brother, I know he's listening, so please, if you can, please come on, right? Because he just said that Benign that was coined by Dr. Daniel A. Moynihan, who was an important figure back in the 60s and stuff, right? So he could probably tell us a bit more about that. But anyways, continue. Go ahead.
So you see with their methodology, the methodology of Salafipubs is that they are very similar. I'm not saying they are this, but they're very similar to the Khawarij. Now, the Khawarij, they have different madhahib of the Khawarij, and many of the brothers who claim Salafiyya here in the West don't even know about the different madhahib of the Khawarij. So some of the attributes of the Khawarij, where you find that they will make takfir on the Muslims, you'll find also with them brothers from SP that they make the tabdi on any Muslim who don't follow them in their opinions or their ijtihad, right? Another issue related to the Khawarij is that they make war and fight the Muslims while leaving the disbelievers, right? SP, they have made war with Ahlul Sunnah wa Jama'at. You will find them refuting by name every Salafi du'at that's not with them or criticize some of their errors. They have made war with these peoples on their platforms.
And I'll go a step further, bro. I'll go a step further. And I put this out several times that they target black du'at. They target them systematically. I know tons of white du'at, and their names never rolled off their tongues, never. But I don't know a single black da'i in the West, right, that they haven't spoken about. You know what I mean?
All the du'ats that are graduates who have their degrees or higher degrees in Islamic studies or academic knowledge who are Salafi, they refute them by name. But right there in Germantown, right there in Philadelphia, the Habashi, who's right there in Philadelphia, who refutes them, the Sufis right there in Philadelphia, who refutes them by name on the minbar, you'll find that these brothers won't even mention their imams or du'at. And they won't mention their name at all because they don't want the heat from them. But they will mention Muhammad Munir and talk about him on the minbar. They will mention Sheikh Tahir White on the minbar. They will talk about Shadid Muhammad on the minbar. Anybody who's a Salafi that's not with their clique, they find them a threat. But they won't refute. But I want to finish. I want to finish this one point about the Khawarij. So they have. I'm not saying they're Khawarij, but they have very similar يعني يلحقوا الخوارج. They have things that are very similar to the Khawarij. Another thing, you're fine with them, even with the followers of SP. Hassan Somali, and I think the first shooting around their masjid, he had gave a talk, and he had mentioned in his talk how some of the brothers in their masjid are hanging out with the criminal element that's shooting up the block, right? So I want to make this another analogy with the Khawarij. You will find the Khawarij, the one killing the Muslims, the one fighting the Muslims. You will find with these brothers in particular, SP and their satellite masjid in Germantown, they're also shooting up Muslims, shooting up non-Muslims, shooting up the block. They're involved in these haram acts. That's out the mouth of Hassan Somali. Their members in their Salafi community, they're still in the streets with the criminals. So they have very similarities to them. When it comes to the issues of tabdi', right? They make tabdi' on anybody who is not with them, who disagree with them. Now, I think that the elephant in the room, and I'll end on this point. The elephant in the room with their group is that they spent over 2 decades calling the Salafis and building their masajids that Sheikh Rabi al-Madkhali, he is the Imam of Al-Jar wa al-Ta'dil. This is very crucial, and I think this is one of the core issues in their masajids, that they build their masajids in the communities based on false principles. Many of the scholars already said, like Sheikh Saleh al-Fawzan, the late Sheikh Saleh al-Luhidan, who just passed away. You asked them, they had said in the past that there is no Imam of Jar wa Ta'dil. And these brothers had built their whole community based on that. And even Sheikh Al-Rabi'a Al-Madkhali came out and told these brothers and individuals, stop calling him this title. They built their community based on this. Mm-hmm. I've been with them for many years. You have been with them for many years. How many sittings we sat with these brothers, and they had told us, well, if you want to know somebody is Salafi, ask them what they feel about Sheikh Rabi al-Madkhali. If somebody says Sheikh Rabi al-Madkhali is not the Imam wa Jar wa Ta'dil, that this person most likely is a Hizbi. Come on. Now the fruits of the fruits that they buried, the fruits of that they buried or they grown, they're eating these things now. All these things are coming to the head, and what we seeing out right now is the reality of the seeds that they grown. They set these seeds out, and now they have to deal with that. That's all I wanted to say.
Exactly, Sheikh.
I want
to touch on Sheikh Tahir. Remember when Sheikh Tahir, he went and he did that lecture on the Nation of Islam podcast or whatever it was. Right?
Yes, I remember that.
And how they lost their God-given minds because Sheikh Tahir went to make dawah to the NOI. You understand? They lost their minds.
The reason why they lost their mind, because I've been with these guys for many years. They were my introduction to the Salafi dawah until I moved to Vancouver.
Let me finish this point, right? Now, Nation of Islam, they have a reputation for cleaning up communities.
The streets.
Long. Like, this is well known about them. I bet you they wishing they had some nation in their community right now to help clean up, don't you? I wish you had a blueprint. See, they out there making enemies where there are no enemies. And the real enemies, the actual enemies, they leave those people alone, which is, like you said, these are the characteristics of the Khawarij. You know what I'm saying? So what the Khawarij are to takfir is what they are to bid'ah. See what I'm saying? So the Khawarij, they make takfir, and these people make tabdi', and they leave the non-Muslims and always and forever attacking the Muslims.
And they haven't produced anything. And these brothers, in the end of the day, they haven't produced any Muslim scholars, no students of knowledge, nothing.
They haven't even produced a single Hafiz of Salafi. I promise you that. I promise you, nobody has sat in any of these masajid, you know, and learned Usul al-Thalath from beginning to the end, let alone the Quran from the beginning to end. Nobody. All they produce is a bunch of loudmouth talkers, and you know what I'm saying? You're off the menhedgers. That's all they produce. And as you mentioned before, now you got to eat that bitter fruit. You got to eat it now. The chickens are coming home to roost.
They have to eat it. I asked one of the followers yesterday on Facebook, pertaining to Abu Khadija, and he was calling him Sheikh. So I asked him, I said, okay, if Abu Khadija is a Sheikh, and they said that Sheikh Hassan al-Banna, rahimahullah, has called him Sheikh, and I disagree with Sheikh Hassan al-Banna. And Sheikh Hassan al-Banna, even though he was senior in age, and he was very well known, but Sheikh Hassan al-Banna, in my humble opinion, he was a Sheikh who was a student of knowledge. He said the Sheikh said he's a Sheikh Abu Khadija. I said, okay, if Abu Khadija is a Sheikh, fi Aibab, he's a Sheikh in what field? What's his field? And these guys got mad with me. I said, every Sheikh has a field. Every Sheikh, every student of knowledge who graduate from Makuliya, he has a field. Sometimes it's dawah, sometimes it's aqidah, sometimes it's ulum al-Quran, sometimes it's tafsir. What is Abu Khadija if he's a Sheikh, in what field? And I asked the same question also about Hassan Samali. If Hassan Samali is Sheikh Hassan Samali, he's a Sheikh in what field? What's his field? Sheikh Muqbil rahimahullah field was hadith. Sheikh Nasruddin Albani rahimahullah, his field was hadith. Sheikh Saleh Suhaimi, his field is Sharia. Sheikh Saleh Fawzan, his field is Sharia law. Sheikh Ruhidain, who just passed away, his field is Sharia law. And Sheikh Rabia, his field is science of hadith, and he has a BA in Sharia law. So what is Abu Khadija and Hassan Samali? What is their field of expertise? What is their field? Sheikh Tahir White, Sheikh Tahir White, his field is Sharia. Muhammad Munir, his field is science of hadith. What is Sheikh Abu Khadija? What is his field? These brothers have no answer. They don't even have the clue that Islam have sciences. Somebody said, well, he is a mujahid. And when they said he is a mujahid, I said to the person, if he's a mujahid, I said, the only mujahid I know is Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and Sheikh Muhammad Wahab. Now, Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he is a mujahid because he mastered most of all the sciences of Islam. And there's no scholar today like him, right? Other mujahids, like the author of the tafsir, the author of the explanation, Al-Fatah al-Bari, right? He is a mujahid, right? But I asked these guys, if Abu Khadija is a mujahid in the Sheikh, what is his field? They have no answer.
He's the same mujahid or mujtahid?
I think they say he's a jahid. Mujahid. Yeah, I think that's one of them told me.
That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. But anyways, Sheikh
he can't be Ishtar. He can't be the other word. He can't be that either. He don't even know Lugha Arabiya good. He can't even be that. He don't even know the Quran good. So he definitely can't be that.
You can't say that Abu Khadija, in all fairness, you can't say that he's a mujahid because he did actually make jihad in Bosnia.
And I'm talking about Al-Almiya and the issues of Al-Almiya. They're speaking about issues in Al-Almiya.
Yeah,
they're speaking the issues in Al-Almiya.
They're saying that he made jihad, and that we have to give him that.
But they're talking about in the issues of Al-Almiya. He's not no mujahid in the issues of Al-Almiya. He's definitely not.
Anyways, Sheikh Hassan Somali got an ijazah from Sheikh Ubaid al-Jabari for Husul Khilafah. So there you go. That's the length. That's the level of their credentials. You know what I mean? Sheikh Abu Hakim Bilal Davis, his credentials says that he flunked Medina University 4 times, right? So that's at least, and he's like up there in terms of the knowledgeable ones amongst them. You see what I'm saying? So and
they have so many issues. When you ask the followers, I took over the pandemic. I took courses in mental health, right? And one of the courses I took in mental health is related to cults. Why people follow cults, what type of cults that exist. I truly believe that Salafipubs is a cult that is made of 2 type of things. It's a religious cult mixed with a business cult. All right. Just because the people who they preach against by name is just because they don't want their followers to follow them and buy their works and buy their material, right? So they have a business aspects to what they're doing. But when you ask the followers basic things pertaining to Islam, things they have to know, especially for people who are claiming to be Salafi and they're refuting people and they calling people Mubtadi, the basic things about Islamic sciences, they don't know. Like I asked him if Abu Khadija is a sheikh in what field. You know, our brother responded to me, who was a graduate from Medina University. He said, well, a sheikh could be general. So I said to brother, I see you graduate from Medina. What kuliya you graduated from? He said hadith. So I said, your field is hadith. So what is the field of Abu Khadija? He was quiet. So he didn't have an answer. You know, this is the type of behavior and thinking that you find people who are in cults behave like.
Yeah.
You know, this is how people in cults.
There's another aspect to this, what you're mentioning, is that because we're Westerners, there's a cultural misunderstanding behind this word sheikh, and these guys exploit it to the T. I mean, they exploit it. They know that the general Westerner doesn't really understand what a sheikh is. I lived in Saudi Arabia for 9 years. I was sheikh many a times. Many a times I was sheikh, but I was sheikh according to the culture of the people. Sheikh is also a term of respect. It's a term, a sign of like saying like uncle or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like a term of endearment. In the West, sheikh means imam. It means like alim. It's like synonymous with alim. You understand? And because the people in the West,
don't know.
Yeah, they don't know. And because the people in the West, they only hear sheikh synonymous with alim. These guys, they went and who did they ask? They asked some sheikh. Right? Because you got to understand, in the East, if, for example, you're mentioning about Sheikh Hassan al-Banna, right? He's from Egypt. His whole life, he grew up in an Egyptian setting, an Egyptian construct, right? He's not thinking like us. He's not thinking that, you know, these people are thinking that sheikh is an al. They don't. He can't. He's not thinking like that because his culture is completely different. So when he's asked, can we be called sheikh? He's like, sure, why not? You know what I'm saying? He's not on that wavelength. You feel me? He's on a completely different wavelength. So that's why it's easy for him. But these guys, they know that the people out here, they don't understand the cultural nuances in the East. And they exploit that. So now these noble duats become noble shayukh, and Shamsi become an ustad. You know, they all promote themselves with these terms and these terminologies. You see what I'm saying? So,
even the word ustad, even the meaning of the word ustad and how it's used in the Arabic countries. You know, ustad is somebody who teaches in the university, or somebody who teaches in a high school. So ustaz in a university, he has his doctorate degree.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't have their doctorate degree or they at least their bachelor's, they're not calling them ustaz. Even the Arab sheikh would tell you, you don't call anybody ustaz. Ustaz work in the university. He's the assistant. He also used as title as the assistant of the college university. Somebody who works in the university and research, they're called ustaz, and a teacher in a high school, right? So they have a degree, they have higher science, they have high knowledge of any type of science, they have the high knowledge. But in America, Shamsi, he's ustaz. I asked your brother today, who did Shamsi study with? What is his asira al-zatiyya? And these brothers don't know who they are following. They don't know who their teachers are. They don't know even if they study in the Islamic environment under a sheikh. They don't even know.
Yeah.
And this creates the atmosphere where we see today of these mindless brothers say they're Salafi, but they have no attachment to Salafiyya or Islamic science. They are obsolete to this knowledge.
But here's the thing: what the Westerner hears is that they hear this exotic Arabic word attached to this person, and that alone in itself gives that person a type of branding. You feel me? So now in their mind, when they hear ustad, they say like, okay, this is the person who can teach me about my religion. You feel me? It carries a different meaning. And at some point, Black people have to take responsibility to all the craziness that's happening to us. Because this is not the first, the second, the third. How many times we're going to be, going for the opium?
Yes,
over and over. For the better part of 400 years, other people groups have been taking advantage of us with the same playbook. And we
You know,
still
it's sad. Sad.
We still
You know, I really hope them brothers in Philadelphia, you know, I know sometimes, you know, you know, this pandemic, you know, a lot of us, we're locked down, we isolated. But, you know, I've been with these people's SP for many years. They were my introduction into Salafia. I know some good things about them, but a lot of the bad things about them is overwhelming right now, and is overwhelming the Muslim community. And the people that should know about Islam and have the Islamic knowledge are the people who say they're Salafi. And when you look at them, they themselves don't know what Salafia is. They themselves are not attached to Islamic knowledge. I asked one of them, you know, I get in debates with them intentionally, for those who listen, intentionally on social media, the followers. I get in debates with them. They get mad with me, but this is part of my research. I listen to their response, what they're saying. So one of them told me, well, how can you say this about Abu Khadija? He translates so much stuff in the English language. And I said to him, so he's a sheikh because he translate now a lot of things in the English language that ups him to being a sheikh. That doesn't make a person a sheikh in Islam because he translates a lot. You know, I think, well, you know, some of the first people who translated the Quran in English were non-Muslim. Are you going to say he's sheikh? You know?
Yeah, exactly. But now I have some guests waiting to come on.
Inshallah. Barakallahu feekum, brother.
Thank you so much for coming, participating. I really appreciate it. May Allah reward you.
Ameen wa iyaakum.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa